welcome back to Aston Martin Hungaroring time, race 13, the last one before the summer break and the last one before we have any further new parts, both front and rear wing coming for Spa on our resummation of this season. But for now, we have to stick with the car we've got, and the car we've got, well, it still leads both championships. I don't know how, why, etc., but that's what's happening. Pierre's first, he's insane. No further news to talk about. The potential change of staff members won't happen until Spa either, so I'll see for qualifying. As ever, just meet your expectations. Of course, these were done on low fuel runs, but looking okay still, regardless. Jack Doohan remains baffling. We did lose one front wing via Mick Schumacher, that's it, but still got 100%. This is something to pay attention to for the race, however. If I remember rightly, year one was a rainy Hungary, and that was a decent result for us because of that, so bear that one in mind. As far as I'm aware, there were no hindrances on the first runs. Gasly's obviously fine, he's first. Mick in 11th, I can't quite fathom. Does have Perez behind, does have Ricciardo behind, who I think might be capable of getting that time up as well. So, as well as Ocon, of course, who out-qualified Hamilton last time out. I feel relatively confident there are 5 vehicles slower, but we have seen some whiff or track evolution on a couple of previous qualifying sessions where everyone just gained time. So I'm not 100% confident with Mick. So I will have to let him go again. Verstappen out-qualified by both Bottas, Russell, Doohan, Leclerc and Gasly is odd. I'm slightly confused by the fact that no one's leaving. We don't have rain, do we? That's just for the race. I'd have thought someone would have gone by now, because that's basically 2 laps. 2 Ferraris, we know both Red Bulls will go out, so I don't want him too far down the train. He's actually going to have a Williams behind him, that's perfect. And good news as well is Jack Doohan, that's the one ahead of him on the road, who, again, remains confusingly fast. So this is actually quite a sweet spot for Mick, behind a car that is somehow faster and ahead of a car that is definitely slower. Right then, flying lap time, 40 seconds on the clock. Everyone should get across the line, no questions asked. The 2 Mercs are weirdly close together on the road. Just look at them at the back. Okay, maybe being behind Jack Doohan wasn't the best news then, because there he goes. It's where Mick went off, but he didn't do it this badly. I can see the Ferrari of the back end of someone else up there, but that is basically what Mick did, but he didn't do that severe. He just tapped his front wing and that was it. Well, the yellow flags remain for the entirety of that, so no one's going to go faster. Oh, somebody did actually go faster. I didn't see who it was. I guess there was like 2 people who were ahead of him or whatever, 3 people that were ahead of him. Maybe Carlos Sainz was the one that went slightly faster there. Did it for his teammate, of course, in the process, knocked him out because he can go faster either. All right, so might as well use used tyres. So Mick might be a bit borderline here. Of course, no Jack Doohan makes life that little bit easier because he was 11th in Q1 before the second round of things. We have no idea what he would have done the second time around, but well, he's closer to Gasly this time, 4 tenths rather than 5, so I think he did have a little bit more in him, although Perez has gone faster. So losing Jack Doohan, but Perez is ahead. Hamilton's significantly slower, that's clearly a problem. Okay, we know Hamilton's got more, we know Sainz and Norris have got more. He's found the time on Magnussen this time around, so that's good news for Mick, but it's only a 10th, and I'm not comfortable, because I think Sainz and Norris can definitely go faster, and I don't know what Magnussen's got up his sleeve at any given time, nor do I know Hamilton's true pace. So there's 3, maybe 4 people that might go faster, and Mick is 7th. So yes, Mick 100% needs to go again. Honestly, Pierre might not need to go again. He's over 5 tenths away from the cutoff. Pierre, I might be able to save like 2 sets of soft tyres for the race, even though it's a rainy race anyway. You know what I might do? I might save the set of softs now for Pierre, and use 2 sets of brand new ones in Q3. Alright, there's the Red Bull anyway, which is kind of what I've been waiting for. I'm risking Pierre here. On board with Mick. Someone's locked up in sector 2. Oh, that's way up the road. That's Magnussen. There's no yellow flag, but he's not got back on track. I'm not going to rewatch it, but there's a dot here. It's Magnussen. He's still not got back on. He's waited and then got back on, but bizarrely the yellow flag vanished before he got back on track. It's not going to affect Mick at all, but may affect everyone who's trying to go past him, even though there wasn't no yellow flag. They may have just been cautious around him. I know the person immediately on the road behind him had to slow, but everyone else, there goes Sainz faster. Had to work that one out. Russell jumps Bottas, doesn't really make a difference. Ricciardo gets into the top 10 but doesn't get Mick. Hamilton gets top 10 but doesn't get Mick. I think Ocon improves but doesn't change. Zhou improves but doesn't change. Magnussen was the one who spanned, so he's obviously out. Norris improves but doesn't get Mick either, so Mick's actually fine. I could technically just bring him in here, but whatever. Perez jumps to 4th, and then Russell jumps to 3rd again. Leclerc jumps to 3rd. Pierre didn't even run a second time and still stayed 1st. I don't know why Pierre's so good, but both drivers Q3 again. That's nice. This is the first time both drivers have been Q3 for 3 races. I feel Mick missed out, and then obviously Pierre had his French issues, And everyone just gets in the way of us. Cool, thanks everyone. Pierre still did a 1:14.7. So despite the fact that everyone got, I mean, now we're in the way of everyone, so that's sucks to be you. Alright, so thank God that was used tyres for Mick as well. So serves them right for coming out literally as we were crossing the line to start our flying lap. So I have genuinely no idea what the correct order is here, because everyone was different levels of in the way of each other. Verstappen currently 10th, for instance. So despite the fact that they all got in the way, Pierre still put in a similar time to his Q1 and Q2 appearances, which I can't work out how that's happened. And Mick's kind of relatively on base as well, considering. Okay, cars have started to go, but we shall wait for... We'll just wait for the end of the queue, actually, I think is what we'll do. We'll give Mick the best toe to get him the best place, but Gasly obviously 3/10 up at the moment. Will be the last two on track. Pierre, oddly, hasn't really closed on the Ferraris, which maybe we just put a little bit too much of a gap to begin with. It'd be nice to have a small toe, I guess. Pierre did his first time on brand new softs, but we don't know how badly he was hindered. Mick did his first time on used tyres, so that might explain actually the 5/10 rather than 4/10 was the fact used tyres versus brand new ones as well. Plus we don't, like I say, we don't know how badly they got held up by the other vehicles on track because we didn't watch it properly live. But Pierre does a purple first sector, Mick does a slower first sector on brand new tyres. I'm starting to wonder if that's just broken. I'm starting to wonder if that's a visual glitch for Mick. Just somehow that no matter what first sector he does, he will always have a yellow there. Even if he is faster, it's just coming up yellow because it's every time going from used to fresh tyres, he does a slower first sector. Purple middle sector from Pierre as well. What is Pierre doing as he gets into the final sector? Faster middle sector from Mick as well. Verstappen goes second. Norris stays 6th. Bottas, I'm presuming, is going to improve to 6th. Bear in mind, they would have done that first run on brand new tyres as well. So they're all used now. Leclerc up to 3rd. Sorry, this is more just sorting out their relatively getting in the way of each other's. Gasly did purple first and second sectors and then didn't actually improve. Mick's 8th. How did Gasly not go faster? Because it was 300ths, 1000th purple, and then 300 slower again. Oh, he did go faster, sorry. It went faster by 2000s. I just didn't track that in my eyes because that is so minuscule a difference. Okay, so Mick was slower in the first sector by 6000, so it wasn't that much different. Still his best lap overall, actually, that. When it mattered too, because the two people behind him found a little bit of time. Lando's got a penalty, it seems. Now, heavy rain race doesn't look that heavy. Based on the rain symbols, that peak might just be intermediate. It might not actually dip into wet, and if it does, not for long. Because that's just, in my own terminology, I'd call the bits either side light shower and the bit in the middle heavy shower, opposed to downpour, which is what we saw last time we had rain in a race. So the rain begins lap 19, effectively, so we need to be able to get to lap 19. Now, the softs literally get 20 laps, I think, and Mick doesn't have any spare ones, which is unfortunate. So we just do we try and hold on to the softs until then? Why is it saying current tyres 89%? He's got brand new ones. We used the Q3 ones first. Oh, don't tell me it rearranged the bloody tyres in the selection box. I think I may have misunderstood which one was the Q3 tyre. Great. Okay, so we'll have to go... He's got 2 mediums, I'm pretty certain. Because I think what we do is we go medium and we go aggressive on the mediums. Because we know the rain's coming here. So, and we've got 2 sets of mediums, so we can go back on them afterwards. And Mick doesn't. I know Mick definitely doesn't have any. Maybe Pierre does have a fresh set of softs, but for some reason it wasn't calculating that in the over here. Because Mick, who is better on his tyres, is showing us not actually reaching 30% by the time that tyre would go in. Whereas Pierre does actually start at the top. Oh, so it does say 100%. Okay, why did that say 89 then? But either way, softs was pointless. We didn't know how early the rain was going to come, to be fair, so that was kind of...
And it's lights out, and away we go!
It's 2 medium runners ahead of 2 soft runners, which is interesting. What will be interesting is actually the soft runners on a two-stop strategy, which you saw was a potential option. The 2 soft runners who might pit before it rains.
That's it.
Okay, so it's position gain for Mick, but he hasn't actually gone forward, so I think he may have been taken off the line, only to then take that position back. We'll rewatch that.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, so I think technically Hamilton had him off the line, but he just had the positioning into turn 1. So it wasn't really an overtake as such, it was just a poor getaway, followed by correct positioning. Meanwhile, Pierre, only a full second ahead of Leclerc. Doesn't look it must be said. The rain should help the fuel situation. Of course, anyone on softs won't be on fresh softs in the top 10. A lot of people are not in the top 10 opting for it, including Norris, confusingly. Okay, so Mick's had a go into the final sector at Bottas and got Bottas. Okay, so deployment ERS-wise has to stop now, but we can stay pushing on the others. Mick in particular just kind of... I think with Pierre, we could sort of just maybe not quite, and then go like super aggressive when the rain is close. Because Pierre's pulled out 2 seconds on Charles for somehow. But yeah, our marker point here is lap 20. I mean, just in case the rain doesn't come for whatever reason, I might actually just need to be sensible. I think it's 1 DRS. It might technically be a double DRS. I'm trying to remember. The pit straight definitely is a DRS straight, but then I feel like following turn 1, you get a second dose of it. Okay, so even... Oh.
Sorry about that.
Wasn't even attacking his tyres, which is... Oh, he's going to wait for everyone. Although, in fairness, everybody's bunched up this time, so it's kind of fair enough. I mean, there's a tiny bit of a gap, I think, outside the top 10 there, but by spinning, he actually slowed that gap up. So now he will be at the back, and... I mean, we can help...
DRS is enabled.
I mean, in a way, that helps during the rain. Get him to tighten up on that lot. As soon as he's back into range, we'll... done fastest lap. Okay, so we go aggressive on these. I mean, bear in mind, this lot of the back are on softs here as well. Sonoda doesn't have DRS, so this might be a 2 overtakes in 1 if Stroll goes for it, which he doesn't. Yeah, it's double DRS, I think. But instead, Mick's having a go at Stroll because Stroll's useless and can't make an overtake work at all. I don't think I can go 5, but I might be able to just go aggressive. Pull back on the fuel. I'm sort of just leaving Pierre to it. He's 2 seconds in the lead at the front. I know rain's going to come at some point, so kind of don't really feel much need to go super aggressive. Sargent doesn't have DRS, so that's what we're kind of closing up on now. In the long run, Vettel's already got him. I think there's going to be a couple of moments here. Mick's just gone for it there. Blimey. I wasn't expecting an overtake there, Mick. Okay, so just pull back now, Mick. I want to rewatch that one, because that was a really good overtake. I mean, absolutely useless camera angles to really show that in its glory, but got him in the chicane. And as someone who's played this track on regular F1 games, that's a very difficult corner to even just take without trying to overtake. It's one of my least favourite corners in the entire driving experience of regular F1 games is that chicane at Hungary. I find it near impossible. Okay, so obviously irritatingly there, Sargent doesn't have the speed to get past Vettel again. This might be the opportunity to harvest a little bit because Sargent isn't being dropped by Vettel, and if he does get dropped by Vettel, then it'll be an easy overtake even whilst harvesting. The key is just making sure we don't... Hello, what's happened there?
Single yellow.
Ah, that's what's happened there. Hi, Lewis. He's done what Mick did. Okay, so in the DRS section, don't harvest. I don't even know what we harvest, to be fair. Sargent is close to being dropped by Vettel, but he's actually closed quite well up during the DRSs. So we're just being tactical with DRS here, just making sure we don't lose them whilst we can harvest our ERS. I know it's lap 8. He's got about 12 laps to try and get into a reasonable position again. Following around this section, back to neutral. To be fair, I think harvesting in the way we're harvesting the position where he gains it anyway. And then we're not harvesting in the places where he uses it. But he is outside of DRS this time, so it's imperative we get past Mick. There we go. Lovely. And it is double DRS as well, because he had it again on the second part. But now he's in Vettel's. That wasn't really a great play. It was just DRS overtake. Crofty. Okay, we might stop pushing Mick's fuel. I just kind of allowed it a little bit longer there. I'll just see if he can get Vettel without any form of overtake mode on. Sector 3's had another moment. It's Sargent, who's now... Thank God he did it then. I just wonder if Mick can get Vettel. Former teammates and, of course, close friends. As you know, they were never former teammates, technically, because Mick was the one who replaced him. But good friends nonetheless, in now opposite cars. Sector 1's now had a moment, which is interesting, because there's nobody in Sector 1. It's Perez in 13. Famously, of course, is Sector 1. So he's trying to overtake Max, and then just loses the rear end there. I don't think I've seen that. Although I say I don't think I've seen that. I think Vettel went off on that corner in Season 1, didn't he? I don't think he did that, but I think he went off there. Ah, Sector 3. It has updated to Sector 3 now. I'm going to presume that the yellow flag didn't affect that, but I was just tempted not to deploy ERS just in case that yellow flag affected the main straight somehow. Okay, go a little bit aggressive on your tyres now, Mick. Just try to get within the 1 second of Norris. You're sort of taking Vettel with you a little bit there, so just deploy a little bit then. We've dropped Vettel in the meantime. All right, so we've got Vettel in. We've got Norris on our sights now. And harvesting doesn't lose you the seconds. That's good news. So just use Norris as a harvesting device.
We are expecting rain.
I've not checked the weather. It still seems to be about the same. We do have 100% on our weather now, so that's a good start. Okay, so now you're no longer harvesting. It may be sensible to try and clear him. How are these soft tyre runners doing? Not superbly. So we've got a little bit of ERS juice. Pushing mixed tyres has got him 10% worse than any other medium runner. Come on, Mick. Lovely work. Back to neutral. Actually, no. Go full deploy now. Get away from Norris. Just DRS, mate. It's not a good overtake. So get outside of the second and then stop deploying. New fastest lap for good measure. He already had fastest lap, but he's back up to 12th. 3 seconds behind Ocon. That's easily gatherable. I've not touched Pierre, by the way, in these first 17 laps beyond well, I think the first 3 really when I was pushing him. And the only thing I've done since basically lap 3 on Pierre is take him off pushing fuel, and now he's over on fuel anyway. So he's going to gain some in the wet weather period. The rain's coming probably in 2 laps, so get the most out of these tyres as you can. And here's the rain. Ooh. Okay, so Pierre's already there. And the rain is here. By the time Pierre gets out, that's going to be intermediates, right? I don't think the rain's ever going to be heavy enough for wets. And if I don't put Pierre in now, I think by the time anyone else gets to the check line, it's going to be a case of they're going to come in. Because I think basically, as long as it's at 1 millimeter, by the point in which people register to come in or not, it's going to be 1 millimeter. Oh, and I just got him as well. If I'd been a split second later, I'd have missed it. But I'm pretty certain everyone's going to come in now because it's 1 second. Verstappen, I think Leclerc just missed the checkpoint for it being 1 millimeter, but Verstappen was right on the point. Sainz has come in, but that shouldn't have mattered. So Gasly's in and out before Mick's even at the entry point.
Copy.
Some people have been forced to go long here. Jack Doohan has not been allowed in. F1 Manager 23 also needs to get the first versus second driver thing in situations like this sorted, because Jack Doohan had track position and should have been the one to come in first, not Albon. Oh, and Pierre's already caught Leclerc and overtaken him. I wouldn't push his tyres. I don't think, considering how wet it is, anyone that's missed that, I don't think I need to really push. So Mick's catching Vettel, who hasn't pitted because Magnussen did. Sector 1's had an issue. It's Williams, I think. It's Tsunoda on, I'm going to say actually wet. Yeah, it was Tsunoda actually on wet tyres. Intermediate tyres, I should say. Verstappen and Norris went straight wet. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of drivers who just got held up by soft runners. I say a whole bunch, it's just Magnussen actually, that's actually wet here. Oh, for God's sake. It's happened again. People just aren't overtaking these vehicles. Thankfully, I think Mick's made up enough time in what was effectively clean air that it's not made a difference. But he's not made up enough time, or as much as he should have, because there's weird points where people just don't overtake. But he has technically caught up to Magnussen. And I think he's still no, he won't quite get Leclerc, but he's still got everyone else in the top 10 that wasn't Leclerc. So that's good news. He's back to 7th. Back to basically where he was before he span. You know what? This might actually just get to wet. Moderate rain. So yeah, light, moderate, and then there's heavy rain. But there's never going to be heavy rain, is my concern here. So I think it will get into wet territory as we just skip a little bit of time. But for how long, and will it be worth it? Why is Perez a full minute down? Because he's gone on wets in intermediate What? So Perez not only lost out in the pit stops to begin with, but then they put him on wets. So did the McLarens. What are they to leader? 40 seconds. Sorry, Pierre's a full pit stop ahead. How is Pierre so far ahead? I know he was the first one to go on to intermediates, but a bunch of people did go in the pits directly behind him. I mean, I know Verstappen did and then went on wet, which is probably what's costing him now. Sainz wasn't that far behind. Sainz should still be the same distance he was behind in the first place, which can't be that far behind. But Pierre's so far ahead, he's actually about to catch Sargent. Water level is coming back down again. I did think it was about to tip into 4, but if that's 3.5, it will actually get to... Oh no, if that's 3.5, then it will get to 4, but it won't stay. It won't stay. Swapping on and then swapping off again will not be beneficial. Okay, let's see if we can get Magnussen. I'm not going to push your tyres, Mick, but just because I don't want to risk it more than anything. But if you can't overtake Magnussen, Sector 1's had a moment as the Ferrari's gone off, so you can't actually overtake. Thanks, Carlos. I mean, we've given us a position, but simultaneously stopped us gaining a position. I'm not really sure you'd count that as an overtake, Crofty. But Mick's attacking Magnussen all the way through this sector. Good overtake. As he's fighting him all the way through these lefts and rights and switchbacks. I'm calling them switchbacks, but you know what I mean. It's really, really solid work. It's changed to wet temporarily. I'm intrigued to see if anyone blinks. Tsunoda blinks. How many laps will it be wet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 maybe? And bear in mind, that would be 2 pit stops you'd have to get back because you have to go on and then off again. So Tsunoda blinks and only Tsunoda blinks. Perez is already on wets. Magnussen got Mick back. So the McLarens, Perez and Verstappen now come back into play here a little bit. As the war level continues, I'll be intrigued to see how much Verstappen gains over these 7 laps. I just realised Mick's going to be losing out here because he's not as good as in adaptable situations. As Russell actually just straight up pits as the war level's marginally coming back down again already. Okay, so it's still staying. Verstappen has gained 4 seconds, I think, in 1 lap. Nobody else really is blinking. Russell blinked. Mick's struggling to keep up because he's not as good when it's because he's on intermediate tyres in wet conditions. That's when his adaptability attribute really works against him. Like, just in regular rain, it's not that much of a detriment. Like, if he's on the right tyre in the right condition, then it's not that much of a detriment. But when he's if he's on the wrong tyre for the condition, then that's where poor adaptability really works against him. And Sainz's good one works for him, seemingly, as well. Verstappen's taken another 3 or 4 seconds off. It's getting closer to intermediate territory again. I think Sainz will get Mick. Oh, it's back into intermediate again. I knew it was going to be borderline. I didn't realise it was going to be bouncing kind of up and down it. So yeah, Russell did go on to West. Weirdly, he stayed 7th, just because of how spread out the field is.
Push now.
As much as I hate to do it with Mick, because obviously he's not as good a driver as Pierre, I do kind of need to push him because he's a sitting duck in these conditions, as it tips back to wet again briefly, but I imagine that will come down almost straight away. So Verstappen will gain a little bit. He's gained about 10 seconds through this entire period. Make that 12, as he now pits, weirdly, as it goes to wet again. I think he has enough time in hand. And because Verstappen's pitted, he's now 37 seconds behind. But he will be on the correct tyre now, I think. He is. A correct but slightly fresher tyre. Pierre's got so much fuel in hand, it really doesn't matter. We'll just push him a little bit on that. He's actually lapped Perez, which is insane. Okay, so now because we're in intermediate territory, we don't need to push mixed tyres quite as hard. Might just harvest up a couple of laps here and then actually attack Magnussen. I've got to be careful of Sainz. I need the actual regular intervals on here. Okay, so in terms of drying out, we're looking at probably lap 44. So 13 laps from now, we've got to make sure these tyres get to. Okay, so actually, in terms of just keeping the tyres alive... Yeah, actually, in terms of keeping the tyres alive, and then mediums will actually just about get to the end as well, which is good news. Should have really looked at this beforehand. So there's a little bit of wiggle room for pushing these intermediates, but not a huge amount. And there might be a brief dip into dry conditions before it actually properly gets to dry conditions as well. If you look at the overall weather, there's a tiny little dip here on lap 40, which might just make it dry temporarily, but then wet again. So I don't want to blink a little bit too early there. I still don't get how Pierre ended up a full pit stop ahead of people. I know he was the first one in, but that shouldn't have made that much difference. Like I say, because there was people who pitted on the same lap as Pierre, who still ended up a full pit stop down somehow. It might be a case of holding and whatever. Because of Sainz, I can't harvest with Mick, which is becoming a huge problem, because I don't think Magnussen quite has the pace. He's not really losing Leclerc, but he's not, super close to him either. He's sort of keeping at 2 seconds, and he might be losing about a 10th a lap. He's actually losing more than a 10th a lap. Just keeping an eye on that interval. I think it is about 2/10. I'm going to go all things on Magnussen here, just in the vain hope that Mick can actually get him. Okay, there's a good harvest point there, seemingly. I need you to get him, Mick, because you're losing Leclerc. And with no DRS for Magnussen to get you back again, I need you to build that gap up a bit. Left Pierre on push when I shouldn't have. Okay, so Mick's got a full second on Magnussen now. He was actually really struggling to keep up with Leclerc. Mick by himself isn't keeping up with Leclerc, as there's an incident in Sector 1. I think it might have been Snowder again. Oh, a Stroll. So it's lap 38. The track is getting close to dry conditions, but yeah, this is the dip before it goes back up again. So we just have to be careful here that if it does go dry, not to... I mean, frankly, for Gasly, it doesn't matter, but the medium tyres just about get to the end of the race anyway, at the point in which we want to go on them when it should get dry properly. So we just got to be careful not to blink now, too early. Part of me's kind of hoping it does go under 1mm, just so it makes other people blink too early. I mean, they might go on hards, in fairness, which, same principle, I guess. Oh, it just hit 1 and then went straight back up again. That's a shame. Okay, so it's coming back down again now, lap 41. Is that ahead of schedule? It's a little bit ahead of schedule. I mean, to be fair, we said 44 was... Yeah, so I think it's moved up a little. Just get back on track, mate. Why have you waited for them? You were 3 seconds ahead of him. You had enough room to just come back on track. Oh, and now you've just missed the pet entry as well. I think you've got another lap anyway, because it's not getting that dry that quickly. That's so annoying. Just full attack these tyres now, because it's going to be dry within a lap. Get back, in the train with Magnussen.
Stop lift and coast.
That's so annoying, Mick. You could have just got back on track ahead of Magnussen, but you waited for him for no explainable reason. Am I going crazy? Is that track not drying up at all? I can't push the intermediate tyres. Okay, now it's officially stopped raining. You know what? I think I can see it. I can see it not being... Pierre's already passed the pit lane entry, so... Pierre's at turn 1, so he's basically got a full lap, but by the time Mick gets into the pit and then changed and then out of the pit, it's definitely going to be under 1mm. It could genuinely be there by the time he gets to the pit lane entry, let alone exit, but he's got within a second of these two, which is good news. I'll just tell him to attack these tyres. Although this might be a risk through this last sector. Something's happened in sector 2 apparently, but I can't genuinely see anyone off. Oh, it might be in that turn behind actually, where Mick and Hamilton both went off. Nope, Joe turn 5. Okay, no idea what that was about. So Mick is the first to blink, and by the time he gets out of the pit lane, it will be under 1mm. So it's a lap earlier, so I don't think he's got a great amount of time for pushing on these tyres, and he's going to come out behind some people as Pierre comes in as well. We'll see how his time to Norris happens here. How well do the intermediates do in just slightly dry conditions? No difference at all, apparently. No difference at all. He's made a few tenths. Magnussen and Sainz have now pitted. I'll push the fuel through this last sector in the vain hope that Mick will get out ahead of them again, but I don't think he will. Literally, he's already made his pit stop. I don't know why you're telling him to pit again. Oh, he's got Magnussen. That's one. Okay, I need him to stay within a second of Sainz by the time DRS happens, but I can't push his tyres any harder than that. Pierre's still by himself. Leclerc's not pitted yet. I'm looking at the track map, and I think Pierre's lapped up to Duran, who's 13th. Hang on a second. That's Russell. Oh, no. That's a safety car. That's a safety car. That is going to be a safety car 100%. I mean, I'm not quite sure how he's done that, but he has done it. Wait, he's driving again.
Okay, happy to lift and coast.
Oh, thank you, George, for actually being a competent driver, apparently, as Pierre does the fastest lap, which, fair enough. George has just saved Pierre's race, because otherwise he would have had to given up a 35-second lead as someone else has just gone wide. That's Mick. Mick, can you stop? Can you stop having to get Magnussen like 13 times? I mean, it's gone slightly wide there. At least you didn't wait too long. But now you're going to have to get Magnussen for like the 4th time this race. You know what? Take this opportunity while you're not in DRS, as Magnussen's done the fastest lap out of nowhere. While you're not in any form of DRS, just harvest up. Somehow you're losing fuel. All right, there we are. All right, so charged up. He's now 4 seconds behind, but he should catch. Oh no, he's not going to catch because he's trying to catch Sainz now, which he's not faster than. Might as well burn the extra fuel on Pierre. Get him that fastest lap back. Unfortunately, it might be a bit dull now just because Magnussen's got the pace to fend Sainz off. They've all gone on soft tyres. Why did I not know they were all on soft tyres? Okay, there is about to be something interesting because they've just hit 50%. And indeed, they are slowing down. Mick's now within 3 seconds as someone else has gone wide. I don't know who/where. I may have just missed it at the top there as he's actually gone over fuel, but it's Sargent again. The fuel is very volatile. It seems to burn through fast, but it seems to stay fast as well. He's now only 3 seconds behind this pair, and there's 9 laps to go. They're going to have like no soft tyres by the end of this race. And we've got full fuel. Leclerc's pitting again. I don't know how far ahead of Leclerc. He's got Leclerc. Everyone, except for Magnussen, is under 50. Yeah, fuel range getting low, but that's fine. He's going to get that back. Okay. Okay, so he's now 2.7 behind. Trying to work out what the gap between Verstappen and Mick is 30 seconds. Just in case Verstappen pitted again. I think Leclerc's gone into his original soft tyre because they're only 78%. But he's 10 seconds behind Mick now. And don't forget, Mick's got full ERS at this stage. Some people at the back are pitting again. I'm not fully certain how Mick's not getting caught up now. As Magnussen and Sainz pit, so pointless trying to get caught up. Mick is now 20 seconds behind Verstappen, so if Verstappen were to pit, that would be that. The funny thing is, he's now got, I think, Sargent behind him, who has DRS on him, but is lapped. So that might be actually a bit of a problem for Mick, that. Pierre has officially lapped all the way up to Sainz. The only people Pierre hasn't lapped are Leclerc, Mick and Verstappen. This is the most ridiculous race I've ever been a part of. Pierre genuinely could help Mick out by getting caught up to Leclerc. I don't think he will. Leclerc is gaining on Mick, but there's only 6 laps to go. And bear in mind, his soft tyres were 78% last time I looked at them to begin with. So, yeah, they're only 18% better now. I think 20 seconds is a lot to ask. Still, in regards to Verstappen, I need to make sure he doesn't go under on fuel either.
All okay on fuel.
I think Leclerc's going to get close. I do not understand how Mick's not getting more on Verstappen here. Because it's 4 laps to go. Leclerc's 5 seconds behind. I get the sense Sainz might be able to actually unlap himself against Pierre, or close to it. I was about to say, does Mick still have Sargent for company, but he doesn't. He's actually about to lap Stroll, I think. It was Tsunoda, actually, not Sargent. Leclerc's going to have to... Oh, Leclerc's pitting, which is actually probably the worst case scenario for Mick. It's worst case scenario for Mick getting second. It might be best case scenario for Mick getting third, because he'll actually be able to tow from Verstappen. I was kind of hoping Mick might be able to get caught up to Stroll to get that tow instead. I kind of forgot he has full ERS as well, but full ERS is good for 2 laps, not 1. Okay, so he's not going to have DRS ever, which is a problem. So unsurprisingly, Verstappen gets Mick again, and he has double DRS, of course, so use the energy to get back into range. We'll go full attack on the tyres last lap. Oh, he's actually not even going to get in DRS range. 84%, those soft tyres. That's a shame. And he's still got a lap Stroll. Actually, he might get DRS off Stroll this time. He might be close enough. Nope, he wasn't. Oh, Verstappen's done the fastest lap, of course. I mean, you might as well try and do the... Oh, wait, that was fastest lap for Pierre. That's Mick's not on the last lap. That's not Mick's last lap yet, because they're nearly a full lap down. I've still got to just sort of meter things with Mick. Okay, now we're on the last lap.
Checkered flags.
Okay, so Pierre's still going to get fastest lap, which is a shame, but I need to make sure Leclerc doesn't get caught up. I'm surprised Leclerc's actually managed to catch up still, even though those tyres are obviously going to go off faster than the mixed mediums were. Just going to tell him not to attack through this sector, just because this is where accidents happen. Sainz did manage to unlap himself, but Magnussen didn't. Sainz managed to unlap himself exactly on the line, I think, because look at the gap between Sainz and Magnussen, even though they were a full lap apart on track. Double podium, and we will actually see this one, because there's no Jack Doohan or Sargent. Sargent's a long way off getting anywhere near a podium. That's it, teammates. What a ridiculous race. Lapped all but 4 of the cars. I still can't work out how... I mean, I know we played it well, but... Okay, so Pierre was nowhere near getting fastest lap. Obviously, going on soft to the end got Max that one, no problem. But the good news is, fastest lap was an optional incentive, and I didn't go for it. What a poor race for Sergio Perez, who did actually manage to recover to 14 in the end, despite how far down the order he actually was. George Russell had 6 pit stops and finished 16th. I mean, that's embarrassing for Vettel and Stroll, who only pitted 3 times. But unsurprisingly, the big winners in that race were the people who pitted twice. Pierre and then Mick, who went off so many times and still finished 3rd. Mick was 20th after lap 1, 2, I forget when he actually had the spin, but he was 20th at one point. Charles Leclerc gets Sergio Perez in the order again by virtue of Perez getting 0 points, but Mick Schumacher gets 15, Carlos Sainz gets 10, closes that right back up again. It's slowly edging towards a 2-horse race. I mean, I know Pierre's gained technically over the course of that one, but it's slowly edging towards a 2-horse race between Pierre and Max now. A 36 point gap between Max and Charles, but it's only a 80 point gap between Charles and Sainz in 6th. George Russell and Valtteri Bottas are on the same points again. Neither have got any points in that race. I didn't realise that happened last time, but they're back on equal points, which is so funny. Tsunoda, Vettel and Zhou Guanyu still without points. Zhou Guanyu remains the worst on countback, but Magnussen up to 12th with 8 points. A very good race from him. I'm trying to work out if that's the first double podium, and we're actually by far and away the best constructor this weekend, which is a nice change of pace. Mercedes with 0 points. Alpine gain, but that's not going to be a thing really. McLaren get AlphaTauri back. That's actually a fight, and Haas might be able to pretend they're in this. And despite the fact that Pierre led from start to finish, he gets 800 points. It's an exceptional 500 points, but because he doesn't do anything that resembled an overtake, really, he had 2 in the entire race. And that's because they was on the correct tyres and the correct conditions against drivers who weren't in the correct conditions. He had 2 failed overtakes. God knows what that was for. And fairly said, he was never behind anyone other than when he went on to intermediates. Yeah, so this is what's getting me. The base experience for Mick Schumacher in that race was more than the base experience for Pierre. I'd understand if it was his growth potential that took him to more points, but the base experience for Pierre Gasly over the course of that weekend was 828. The base for Mick was 962. And he only had 10 overtakes. It wasn't like he had a great amount of overtakes either. Both of them had exceptional in terms of the performance, so top 3 is clearly exceptional. And we had multi-race incentives go through there, so that's a nice healthy haul of money. Yeah, I dare say the board might be pleased with us, considering the target season for winning the Constructors was 2026 and it's 2024. That's worth another 1.5 million. Cheers. That's money in the bag. Now, young Mick does have a point. I say his adaptability is bad. It's 73. It's not awful. I'm actually going to improve his control just to slightly mitigate those spins going forward. That's a reactive point, really, more than anything. Okay, so the important facility upgrade is on the 16th of August, is a week before the next race. So we won't deal with anything stuff-wise until then. So in the grand scheme of Aston Martin's campaign, August the 16th might be the most important date on the calendar, because it's the 2 big pieces and the hospitality upgrade that might get us the great staff member that we're after. And then it's Spa a week later. In case you're wondering, that's suspension research for next year. And that's just a refurbishment for the CFD simulator, which tipped under 80%. With 34 million in the bank, we might actually look to improve one of these now, rather than just refurb it. What does 4 do? This is more engineers, so that just gets stuff faster. Design Centre. The Design Centre doesn't have a condition, so that never goes down. The wind tunnel is kind of at maximum. Suspension simulator is not far off going down, but it's just suspension. It's such a big amount of outlay for one thing. It's 2% of brake cooling, and that's it. That's 500 grand more, and at least it does engine cooling as well. But this is just purely brake cooling via suspension. It's one thing in one piece, whereas that's 3 things on three. Well, it's two things on three pieces, whereas this is everything, effectively. I'm always tempted to hold on to the money. It's 98 days for the wind tunnel. I'm just trying to work out how long that bar will take to go down. Because I'm also thinking is we're not really going to be thinking about that many new pieces. This is a timing issue rather than a do I want it issue, because I do want it, but 98 days is obviously 3 months. So we're effectively looking August, September, October, end of October, which is effectively the opening of ATR period 5, which at that point, you're not really looking to make any new pieces, because that's Mexico, Brazil, and then Abu Dhabi. That's it. You're not using that last ATR period to create new parts. You're using it purely for research. So you kind of almost want it ready for the new year rather than now. So 98 days, I think we get away with waiting a month, because I think that bar, in terms of the condition, I think that might take more than 3 months to get down. So I'll hold on to the money for now. We'll be tactical with that, I think, because then also in 6 days' time, the refurb on the CFD comes through as well. And that might be a consideration going forward. But Spa-Francorchamps, next time out. Yeah, that was a weird race. It's one of those races that does make you question the quality of the game, I guess, just because of how stupid every other AI driver was. But in years gone by, we'd have absolutely taken a race like that, but when you're already leading the championship by a healthy margin, it seems a little farcical. However, if you enjoyed this, nonetheless, like, comment, subscribe, you know the deal by now, and I'll see you for Spa next time out. Until next time, ta-ra.